La vidéo d'aujourd'hui est la première d'une série de 10 vidéos sur l'anglais des affaires et cette vidéo porte sur la communication. Une communication efficace dans un environnement professionnel est essentielle pour progresser au travail. Améliorer votre vocabulaire professionnel des affaires en anglais et vos connaissances en communication vous aidera à travailler plus efficacement et à ouvrir de nouvelles opportunités de carrière. La vidéo d'aujourd'hui vise à vous aider à améliorer vos compétences en communication et abordera 3 points clés. Les emails, les situations sociales et la communication avec les collègues. Tout comme dans votre environnement professionnel, cette vidéo sera en anglais. Mais, contrairement au travail, des sous-titres en anglais seront disponibles si cela vous aide.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris and today I'm going to be talking about communication with business English, communication. I'm going to be talking about 3 different things: emails, social situations and communication with colleagues. Okay, so we start with emails. And when we start with an email, we should always have a clear and concise subject for the email. Some examples could be the meeting, following up from the meeting, a payment reminder perhaps, request for information, application for the position. There are many things an email could be about. But whatever yours is about, make sure it is clear and concise in the subject line. And now we will start the actual email. Inside, the first thing is you must address the email to somebody. If you know this person's name, then there are a couple of options of how you could start. It could be, if the person's name was Joe Smith, for example, and you know Joe, it could be Dear Joe. If you know Joe very well, you have a good relationship, Hello Joe is fine. Hi Joe even, if it's a very casual sort of business relationship. If you do not know Joe, I would recommend saying Dear Mr. Smith. Hello Mr. Smith. But don't say Hi Mr. Smith. Okay? Now that is it, of course, if you know the person's name. If it was Josephine Smith, it would be Dear Mrs. Smith or Hello Mrs. Smith, of course. If you don't know the person's name, there are 2 options. We could say Dear Sir, Madam. That is the most common. And then you could also say to whom it may concern. Okay, so that's when you're addressing an email to a company, a business of some description, but you don't know exactly who is going to receive the mail. Dear Sir, Madam, or to whom it may concern. Okay, starting the email in a business situation, if you know the person that you are sending the email to, professional courtesy dictates that you should say a little bit of small talk. Small talk, it's something we do. It's very common with British English, American English also. A little, hi, how have you been? I hope things are well with you. It's really busy here. How are you going? Things like this. Just a very small personalisation of the email before you start to talk about the serious business. Okay, it's just a little professional courtesy which we normally use in business English, if you know the person. So after you have done that little bit of small talk, now's the time to really start the email and express what you want to talk about. I am writing regarding. I just wanted to know about. There are many different ways that you can start this email, and I'm going to leave some on the screen here for you with some really good ways that you could start your business email. Okay, so often in a business situation, you are simply responding to somebody else's email. There's a couple of things we should do when you're responding to somebody's email. First, we always do our professional courtesy. Hello, how are you? How have you been? These sort of things we talked about before. Then thank them for their email. Thank them for their inquiry. And then commence your response to their email. I'm going to leave you with some good ideas for different situations in a response to a business email. Okay, so we just looked at some ideas for responding to an email, but what about if you have to ask questions of your own? Well, the important thing is to keep them polite, and I would always use could with my questions. Try to avoid can. Can is a little less formal. Could is great in an email. Could you please help me with this? Do you think you could do this for me? Could. I'll give you a few options here on the screen for some ideas about could. It's the best way, I think, to ask questions in an email. Okay, so often in an email you have attachments. There could be a photo, a spreadsheet, a Word document, an MP3, etc. And here are the best ways to introduce that attachment in your email. Okay, it is now time to finish our email, and if you are wanting this person to respond for you, to answer your question or to send you something, a nice way to finish the email is, I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to your reply is also possible, but I look forward to hearing from you is very common, and for my English learning students, sometimes they look at that and they think, oh, that is a little bit bizarre because I look forward to hearing from you, but I'm actually asking for an email. I want to read from you. But we don't say, I look forward to reading from you. We say, I look forward to hearing from you. So that's a great way to finish the email. And then, of course, we have to sign our name at the end. And in the past, it was very common to write yours sincerely in a business email. But this was many years ago when emails first started. Today, not many people use yours sincerely. It is very old-fashioned and very, very formal. Normally, people simply write regards, perhaps best regards, or kind regards. These are the best ways to finish a business email. If you have a very close relationship with the person and it is less formal, you could write cheers, but Most people write regards, best regards, or kind regards to finish a business email. Okay, now it's time to talk about social situations in a business English environment. Now, it's very similar to the emails in that when you see a colleague, you always say, "Hi, how are you?" You're not really looking for the response. You don't want them to tell you, "Oh, I've got a bad shoulder, back, neck, I've got a headache." They don't really want to hear the response. It's just a polite thing to say. "Hi, how are you?" And you respond, "Good, thanks, how are you?" Something like this, something very, very simple. Don't go into all your problems. Just simply respond with a, "Hi, how are you?" "Good, good, how are you today?" Things of this nature. Now, also, the social situations, they don't just finish there, of course. When you see each other at the meeting room or in front of the coffee machine or something, there's a lot of small talk. Small talk in English is normally weather, sport. Weather and sport. These are things you should be comfortable talking about. In Britain, they always like to talk about the weather. Weather, weather, weather. Okay? You should know all things about the weather, predictions of the weather, what the weather was like, etc. Sport is also a very, very common small talk subject. So perhaps try and get familiar with what is the most popular sport in the region where you are working. Perhaps if you start to know, "Oh, my boss really likes this football team," maybe you could talk about that football team. Have a look at the results. Even if you don't really like that sport, if you see that that team won on the weekend, on Monday come in and go, excellent result." It's a very, very good way to progress with your English and perhaps progress with your career too. Speaking small talk with your colleagues. Excellent way. I'm going to put a few ideas up here on the screen for you, but what I really recommend is becoming familiar with weather and sport. Okay, social situations are of course not just at your workplace. And it's not just talking about weather and sport. Sometimes you have to go to a dinner with colleagues or with clients. Sometimes it might be to a conference. There are many, many different ways where social interactions can occur in a business English environment. What can be difficult is if you are at a dinner or a conference or a party, when there is music and there are many, many people talking, it can be difficult for you to understand. You're communicating in a language which is not yours. It could be vocabulary that you are not comfortable with, and it can be a very difficult situation for an English learner. What I recommend in this situation is not to say, "I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand." If you keep saying that, perhaps people will stop talking to you. "I didn't catch that. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that," is a great expression to use. "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." Now, when you say, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that" to somebody, normally they will take the time to repeat it slower and perhaps louder to help you with the understanding. Now, we also talked about weather and sport before. When you are outside of that workplace environment though, if you are at a dinner party, for example, with colleagues or with clients, you need to know some more vocabulary. I highly recommend having a look at perhaps my restaurant or food vocabulary videos to help you in this environment. It's also good to be able to talk about modern events. If you know that you are going to a dinner with colleagues or clients, read the newspapers or watch the news a few days before you go to this dinner. Just so you are comfortable with topics that perhaps people might talk about. People like to talk about what's happening around the world. People like to talk about celebrities, all sorts of different things that might have been in the news in the last few days. And finally, of course, social situations in a business environment. It still is a business environment. Even if you are not in the workplace, keep it polite, keep it relatively formal, okay? We shake hands, we don't do kisses in British English, in American English, no. Simply a shake of the hand is fine. Try and keep it relatively formal with your social interactions. Okay, my last point today is talking with our colleagues. Not emails, not social situations, talking with our colleagues about work. Now, often we need to ask somebody questions. Sometimes you might have to ask them difficult questions. Things you are asking somebody that you know they do not want to do. For this, there is an excellent way of asking questions in English, and it is a would you mind question. Would you mind? Would you mind helping me with this? Even if you know they don't want to help, you ask, would you mind helping me with this? It's very polite and it's very difficult to answer in a negative way to a question, a would you mind question. Would you mind working on the weekend? Would you mind staying an extra 2 hours this evening to work? Would you mind doing this for me? Would you mind replacing this colleague for this shift, etc.? Would you mind questions? Now, if you noticed, all those would you mind questions are followed by a verb in the ing form. Would you mind doing? Would you mind staying? Would you mind helping? They are always in the ing form. Now, would you mind? Very, very difficult for an English-speaking person to answer in a negative way. If I wanted to answer this question in a negative way, I would have to say, yes, I mind. We say yes for a negative. Yes, I mind. It's like saying oui, ça me dérange. And for an Anglophone like me, it's very difficult for us to say that. It's very, very abrupt, very direct. And so normally, with the would you mind question, I will answer in a positive way. I would say, no, I don't mind. No, that's okay. Yeah, no, I'll do it. Things like this. We answer no for a positive response for would you mind questions. So if you have very difficult things that you know your colleague doesn't want to do, use a would you mind question. Now, of course, communication with colleagues is not just about asking them things that they don't want to do. It's also about giving compliments, thanking them for doing work, saying what a good job they did. Things like this. It's really important to know how to say it in English and to say them regularly. A positive work environment leads to better work, of course. So here are some really good things that you can say, positive things to your colleagues. So that is the end of today's video on business English communication. For more business English videos, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and if you like this video, please press the like button. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.